What is up, everyone? I hope you are all doing awesome. My name is Nathan, and today I have a brand new modern brew for you guys, a brew that I have created myself from the ground up, so I'm very excited to share it with you guys. But before I get started, as always, thank you guys for watching, thank you for commenting, and if you haven't yet, please consider subscribing. I would greatly appreciate your support. So, a new modern brew? Well, I'm going to give you guys one guess as to what 3 converted mana cost creature might be in the deck. And if you know me well, then of course it's Geist of St. Traft. But one exciting thing is that I've paired him with my new second favorite creature in Modern, Tasigur the Golden Fang. Guys, I'm excited to show you a deck that I'm calling either Geist the Golden Fang or Geist and Golden Fang. I don't know yet. Geist the Golden Banana. Let me know a good name, but here it is. This might be kind of a long deck tech because I want to go over every card with you guys, but I'm going to do my best to be concise. This is a tempo mid-range deck. The deck has the capability to operate on 2 primary axes. That's going to be tempo and mid-range, but can also operate on a 3rd controlling axis as well. It's really going to depend on what your opening hand looks like. If you have a Tasigur and a Thought Scour in play, you can oftentimes go turn 2 Tasigur, turn 3 have a removal spell plus remand up, and just be on this great tempo plan that you can further develop by going Snapcaster Mage into that remand. So that's awesome. If you have a Geist, you're likely going to be a little bit more mid-rangey, kind of in between mid-range and tempo, where you're going like turn 2 remand, turn 3 Geist, and then turn 4 removal spell with remand or something like that. But you can very easily transition to that into a tempo game as well. You also have swords for mid-range and grinding matchups to get extra value. And if you have Lingering Souls in your opening hand but no Geist or Tasigur, then you're probably set up for a good mid-range matchup. Now, before I get into the details of the cards, I want to share with you guys how the deck has actually evolved. Okay, so this is where I started. It was more of what I think of as a typical mid-range list, in that it was looking to close games down with colonnades. It had some great mid-range cards like Lingering Souls and Battle Skull for the late game. But as it turned out, I started to realize that one of the most powerful things the deck could do was actually play a turn 2 Tasigur and then get on the tempo plan. And Colonnade made that awkward. In fact, Colonnade made casting a turn 1 Serum Visions or turn 1 Hand Disruption kind of awkward as well. It became really apparent that what we actually wanted was something like Dark Slick Shores. So the first change that the deck really made was to cut the manlands and lower the curve a little bit. And it turned into kind of an iteration that was more like this. We'd gotten rid of the colonnades, brought in some cryptic commands, which we'll talk more about all of these individual spells later. Kept some of the sort of fun techie cards like Academy Ruins and Steel Shaper's Gift and utility lands like Shizo and Iganjo Castle. But our mana needed a little bit of work, and we eventually got rid of things like Consecrated Sphinx and Battle Skull. We really didn't have enough lands to support Consecrated Sphinx. It was a nice and fun idea. But the deck was already kind of getting a little bit more refined. In this 3rd iteration, we got rid of the Consecrated Sphinx out of the board. We improved our mana some. And we still had the Steel Shaper's Gift, but it was well on its way to what I consider to be actually version 1.0 of this Esper mid-range deck. And that's this one here, which we're going to be talking about in detail. We improved the mana even more. We got rid of Battle Skull, as great of a card as it is. On 22 lands, it's just kind of an expensive spell. And we ended up with this 75 here. So let's go ahead and talk about it in detail. Okay, guys. Now, as I said in the beginning, I feel like I have a lot to cover, so bear with me. We're going to go over every card in the deck. Let's just go over the mana base to start. We have 22 lands. As far as our colors, the mana, it's a little stretched because it's pretty demanding with double black and triple blue. Overall, we have 18, I believe it's 18 blue sources, 16 black sources, and 12 white sources. We have 9 fetch lands that get all of our colors. In fact, Marsh Flats used to be a godless shrine, but since we do have triple blue and double black, I just wanted another fetchable land source. We had to cut Ghost Quarters. As I said before, we cut the man lands, but we did keep some interesting tools. We kept Academy Ruins. Sometimes you throw a sword in the yard with Thought Scour, and it's nice to be able to get it back. And then sometimes against like green-black decks, they either make you discard a sword or kill it with Abrupt Decay. Now, you have the tools to play a long, grindy game with those decks, so it's nice to be able to have a way to get back a sword into your hand. And then when you play something like a Lingering Souls, being able to equip it is obviously really great. Let's see, we also have Shizo Death's Storehouse. Now, I can't say enough how sweet this card has been for me. Against some decks, you can just put it, you can give Geist Fear, and an unblockable Geist will win you the game if it goes unchecked, and a lot of decks don't have good ways to answer him. Also, sometimes you can just make giving Geist Fear while chump blocking all of their creatures with Lingering Souls the plan to win, and that's good enough. So Shizo has been really good. It's also good with Tasigur. He has 4 power, and being able to push him through is powerful as well. And if you have a sword equipped to either of these, if you're facing a creature that the sword doesn't give them protection from, giving them fear to enable them to push damage through and get a sword activation is also powerful. So that's the mana base in the deck. Let's talk about these spells. We have 4 Path to Exile because it's Path to Exile. It's an awesome removal spell. But if we manage to get an early Tasigur in play on turn 2, we actually can have a great lineup of spells in which we can go turn 2 Tasigur, and then on turn 3 we can have a Path to Exile to clear away a blocker, attack with Tasigur, and then have Remand backup for whatever their follow-up play is. So it really lets us get on quite the effective tempo plan. We have Serum Visions. Since we're only running 22 lands, Serum Visions is really good for helping us make sure that we hit our land drops. It also smooths out our draws. In really grindy matchups, Snapcaster Mage into Serum Visions actually nets you a card. And if you happen to have a disruption heavy hand and you shred your opponent's hand apart, following that up with the Serum Visions is really great because they're drawing off the top of your deck and you've gotten a chance to look at your top cards and smooth out your draws. So Serum Visions works well in the deck. I've been very happy with it. We also have 2 Thought Scour. It's another cantrip that helps us hit our land drops, but primarily Thought Scour is there to enable a turn 2 Tasigur. I considered a 3-3 split of Serum Visions and Thought Scour, but overall I think Serum Visions is just the better card, so I went with the 4-2 split. The main deck Disruption makes sure that we have a good game 1 versus combo. The information is also nice because we do have some counters, so it allows us to better utilize them. Additionally, if we're going like turn 1 Hand Disruption spell into turn 2 Serum Visions, we likely have better information about what our opponent's doing, so we can have a more effective scry from the Serum Visions. And kind of a side note worth mentioning, because the deck also runs Snapcaster Mage, against combo decks, being able to go turn 1 Hand Disruption, turn 2 Hand Disruption, into turn 3 Snapcaster Mage Hand Disruption can really cripple a combo deck from what it is trying to do. So getting to our 2 drops, we have 4 Remands. Remand is great in this deck because we can actually play a very resilient and powerful threat early that we can then protect or just keep the board clear with Remand and have it be the amazing tempo spell that we'd like it to be. Something worth mentioning as well, the deck actually runs 12 spells that replace itself, so Remands and Cryptics and Cantrips, you actually see a pretty reasonable amount of your deck. We have 3 Snapcaster Mage. The list is pretty tight because we also have all of these other Delve cards. I don't know if we want 4. And 4 Snaps is not as good as it would be, say, if we had a bunch of bolts, but we still have plenty of efficient removal spells that we'd like to flash back, so we're definitely going to run Snapcaster Mage. We have 2 Victim of the Night because it kills most things that you want to kill. Now, this is a good spot to mention Dismember. If Burn wasn't as prevalent in the modern meta as it is, I think I would like to run Dismember. And the primary reason is if you are playing a turn 2 Tasigur, then Dismember can also be played on turn 3 while holding up Reband, and that's just very powerful if you have, you know, a Tasigur in play to be able to kill a creature and then hold up Remand. But because there is a lot of burn, I don't think, you know, we really want to be taking 4 to kill a Goblin Guide, or, you know, just having those spells that we have to take damage for to be relevant. So for now, I'm still running 2 Victim. I may consider going 1 Victim, 1 Dismember and testing that out, but this is what I'm running as of right now. Lingering Souls gives us plenty of sword carriers, as well as just being a great mid-range card. It's also good against opposing Lingering Souls in that we can trade for their Lingering Souls 1 for 1, which is sometimes difficult to do. Geist of St. Traft is our fastest clock. He also is really amazing, as I said before, with Shizo's Death Storehouse. We have enough removal to help get him through Cryptic Commands, and we can very easily transition into a tempo-based game with Remands if we removed a creature and have Remand up and have our Geist in play. And kind of above all else, he is probably the best sword carrier in the deck. Against some decks, putting a sword on a Geist is just enough to win the game right then and there. Deals 8 power, and against a lot of creatures, because of the colors that the sword affords him protection from, we can just start punching through for a lot of damage and gaining a lot of extra value. We have 2 Restoration Angel because they interact favorably with Snapcaster Mage, Geist of St. Traft, but they also allow the deck to operate on the tempo axis because you can hold up counter magic, and if they don't do anything, then flash in a Restoration Angel. She's also another resilient sword carrier with her 4 toughness, and she's also not vulnerable to Abrupt Decay. I've been really happy with the addition of the 2 Restoration Angels to the 75. We also have Cryptic Command. Cryptic Command is actually really good in this deck, I think, because it operates very well on all of... It's just relevant in every mode that the deck can find itself in. It's a good tempo-based card. Bouncing a creature, drawing a card is good if you're on the tempo plan. Tapping their team can help you get extra damage in. If you're in the mid-range game, you know, or attrition matchup rather, being able to counter a spell and draw a card is quite powerful. And if you're playing the control deck, obviously Cryptic Command shines very well as well. We also have Tasigur the Golden Fang. And kind of like Cryptic, I think Tasigur is just in perfect harmony with what this deck is trying to do. It really helps enable, you know, an early Tasigur really helps enable the deck to operate in a tempo role. If we're on a mid-range matchup, he's a great attacker and defender, as well as just a card drawing value engine for games that go long. So Tasigur is he's my second favorite creature in Modern, and I think he works very well in this deck. Overall here, I think that this main gives us, you know, pretty reasonable game against a lot of different decks. We have removal for creatures, disruption for combo. We can present a fast, proactive clock of our own. I've been really happy with it. So let's talk about the sideboard. So we have Duress and Inquisition of Kozilek for combo and control matchups. They also come in versus Burn. In fact, I want to give my buddy Sean Williams just a quick nod because this Duress was a Thoughtseize, and he said, hey, you know, you're going to bring Thoughtseize in against combo and control anyway, but if it was a Duress, it also gives you another card to bring in against Burn. And I haven't tested it, but I'm a fan of that change, so we're trying that. Relic of Progenitus, so that we have an answer in our 75 to graveyard-based decks. Engineered Explosives is good. It's just kind of a great catch-all, but we also bring it in against token strategies, bring it in against Affinity. It's a good time to mention we don't have a lot of the traditional Affinity cards like Stony Silence. However, we do have Zealous Persecution, which is good against Affinity. We have Engineered Explosives, and we also have Lingering Souls as well as removal spells. So I think that we're probably pretty well equipped to deal with Affinity. I haven't actually tested much against Affinity, but it seems reasonable so far. As I said, Zealous Persecution, it's good against Affinity, but it's really primarily there against opposing Lingering Souls and token-based strategies. Counter Squall for combo and control matchups. Timely Reinforcements for aggressive matchups like Zoo as well as Burn. Now, I'd rather just be running Rest for the Weary because I think Rest is actually better dedicated burn hate, but because we also have swords, I think Timely Reinforcements is worth running because it gives us guys that we can potentially put a Sword of Light and Shadow on. Dismember for creature decks, Sword and Fire and Ice for blue-red decks, Sower of Temptations so that we can take Goyfs and Tassigurs, Siege Rhinos, Thrag Tusks. I've actually once taken an Iona Shield of Emeria, which was pretty sweet. And then lastly, a Murderous Cut for additional removal for creature-based decks. So that is the 75, guys. Oh, one last spell to consider is Disenchant, but I think maybe we can get by without it because we can bring in a lot of disruption, and we have Engineered Explosives and counter spells as well. Yeah, so that's the 75, guys. I have been doing quite well in the 2-mans with it. I've won 2 games in an 8-man. I haven't run it through a daily event yet, but I will, and I will record it for you guys. I'm very excited to hear your feedback. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know if there are things you think I haven't considered. I think that Esper has some great tools to make Geist viable, where it doesn't have bolts and things like that. It does have removal. It has hand disruption to clear the way for Geist. You get Lingering Souls, which makes swords better. I think the deck just actually synergizes very well with itself, and I think it can operate in a lot of different modes. All right, guys, that's the deck. Let me know what you think, all that stuff. As always, thank you for watching. Thank you for commenting. And if you haven't yet, please consider subscribing. I would greatly appreciate it. I think you guys are awesome. As always, draw well and smash face.